outside.
Yes, it is. I try not to be too envious in the winter, but in the summer, then they're all stuck inside because it's so hot.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, hello.
Martin.
Les, shalom. Oh my God, what a pleasure to see you, Les.
Good morning, Rabbi. It's so nice to see you.
Oh my God.
I was just thinking that too. It's nice to see you too.
Hey, Gail. Les, were you a student at Creighton University many years ago?
Many years ago, yes.
Psychology major?
That's right.
I was your professor.
Dr. Ware?
Where?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, it's really good to see you, too. It's your fault that I got into psychology in the first place. I've never forgiven you for that.
Well, I'll accept the blame.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Good to see you.
Are you, is it Connie and Mark?
Yes.
Are you part of Countryside?
Yes.
See, it's interesting that Les and you both ended up at part of Tri-Faith.
Yes, yes.
Yes, goodness.
Mark,
We had been without a church for like 30 years since we had been together. We just hadn't come to connect with anything. And then when Tri-Faith came up and Countryside, it's just been such a wonderful fit for us.
Mark, I have to tell you that we all at Temple Israel, we all thank you for the classes you taught Les, because every Saturday we analyze all the biblical characters, because all of them are crazy characters.
I'm sure Les does an outstanding job.
Oh, thank you. I had a great teacher. Great.
Yeah, he most certainly does. He adds so much to Torah studies by that perspective.
Deb, thank you again for organizing all this, Deb.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think what happened was Dan maybe logged in last time, and that's why I got mixed up this time with the Countryside one.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows that today is the last class before we pick up again after the beginning of the year. Maybe the second week in January, we're going to start again. So please watch your publicity and materials, and hopefully you can join again.
What will we do without you?
Life will be very, very pleasant without me.
Yeah, I might have trouble being nice to people 5 days in a row, Aryeh, without your inspiration to be a better person.
You are a great person. Just to mention something about this week Torah portion, which the rabbi from Temple Israel mentioned it in his remarks on Friday. There is this man, amazing man, that the brothers are meeting outside of their tent in search for Joseph. And they ask this man, we don't know if it's a man, an angel, a messenger, it doesn't matter. They ask him, have you seen our brother Joseph? And of course he said, yeah, I heard him saying that he's on the way to Goshen, which is a part of Egypt. And as a result of this man, this man that they meet, they end up in Egypt. We end up 430 years suffering servitude. So it just tells you, be careful of the people you meet. You never know where they can direct you. But try not to get to Egypt. Good morning. So I hope everyone has the material in front of them. This is a sermon I gave and I called it The Little Engine That Could. And so if you have it in front of you, please follow. And then, of course, don't be shy. And please jump in, participate, raise your hand. Or if you don't raise any hand, just barge in. It's fine.
Connie's holding the book up.
Ah,
You what?
Connie is holding the book up. The little engine
Oh,
that
the
could.
little engine that could.
Oh, please.
Does anyone not have the notes? If you don't, put your hand up and I'll kind of give you a really quick direction to get to it. Do you all have it?
I don't have the notes.
If you go to Countryside, just really quickly, go to Countryside website where you're logged in.
Okay.
And then, hang on, I'm following there. And then there's one that says learning. Hang on, I'm going back there to direct you.
Can to the calendar. It's shortcut. Go to the calendar.
Well, the calendar gives you the link, but if you go to Countryside and then learning together,
Then you can get the materials.
and
Okay.
then Faith Center for Faith Studies,
Bye-bye.
and then it has all the downloads. It's the first one.
Deb McAllister,
Yes.
they're seeing you upside down.
Oh, you know what? I'm waiting for, I
Oh,
updated my computer. I'm on my phone until my computer gets smart.
And Les,
Am I right side up now?
you're okay now.
Thank you.
if you don't get it, I can email it to you too if you want. Put your email in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I'm starting.
Okay.
You stand all alone. You feel cold, except for the warm blush you sense creeping over your face. Somehow, you seem so exceedingly small and silly. Everyone looks at you, and you wish that you could disappear into a deep pit right on the very spot you are standing. You consider running. No, too obvious. How about tears? No, too embarrassing. All you can do is stand here and wait until somebody gives in and chooses you. Okay, we'll take him, one kid calls. But if he is on our side, then we get first ups and a run to start off with. Relief, finally, somebody chose you. But again, you were the last, the worst, the one nobody really wanted. All of us have stood in that lonely place, whether it was during a grade school baseball game, a spelling bee, or a dance. We have all experienced that sick, sad feeling when chosen last. Even as adults, we undergo such torture. We are excluded from the right group, or we are left out of the elite to which we sought to gain entry. Indeed, our society does not accept losers. Our culture preaches performance, upward mobility, and attainment. We dress for success. We take courses for greater achievement. We even search out colors in foods, which guarantee accomplishment in our love life and business careers. We place our children in special schools, which offer every opportunity to move ahead at the greatest academic speed. We expect that everyone will follow the path that leads to a higher education and higher achievement. We Americans, and I put Jews because I gave this sermon to Jews, but you can substitute Jews with everyone else. We have a proud history of triumphing over difficulty. We have been creative enough and also industrious enough to establish ourselves as the movers and shakers of American society. We inherit an incredible immigrant story. We learned from that story that rising to the top brings security and opportunities. We refer to the rise of the Jewish immigrant in a mythical fashion, and we interpret that myth as the model for ourselves. Any reflections on the opening paragraph?
The story of Americans, that we take it all upon ourselves and pat ourselves on the back, I think.
Yeah, and some periods of time we have done it more often. I don't know. Lately, I have a feeling that we're not doing it enough. We seem to be in a rut. That myth has generated what one social worker has described as the generations raised on the story of the little engine that could. Since the time the children's book became mass marketed, parents have read and reread the heroic story of that little weak train engine that used its positive thinking of "I think I can" to produce the result of "I knew I could." It is an important myth that helps a small, weak child believe that he or she can work hard enough to achieve great results. We want our children to see a future with no impediment to opportunity. From education psychology, we know of the danger of low expectations. When a teacher does not believe that a child can perform, that child will probably fail. Yet the little engine that could teaches more than that. I'm at the second page. When it becomes the myth of the generations, it may induce children to shoulder the burden of unattainable expectations. A child who had difficulties spelling can practice and study, but that child may not be able to do significantly better. Another who dreams of dancing may take endless lessons, but simply will not be a gifted ballerina. While that little engine can do anything, human beings cannot. That myth can lead to expectations which overwhelms. Okay, I'm stopping now to take some air, but this is also opportunity for you to jump in.
My grandchildren and that book came out right around when I was little, and I had it be my favorite along with the pokey little puppy who was very curious. So those were kind of my books as a little kid, but I don't, I never saw it as overwhelming. I thought it really gave the message of hang in there and try and do what you can, do what you can, do what you can. And I hope that's the message my grandchildren got, rather than to be overwhelmed with they had to succeed at the top.
Connie, it's too late.
Yes, and they've done very well. So the book must not have hurt them too bad.
So they use the book and the message of the book in the right manner. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. What else?
Rabbi.
Yeah.
The little engine that didn't do what he did because of himself. He did things because of others.
Beautiful.
Right?
Of course. That's one of the messages of the sermon. But I don't think the collaboration is something we tend to pay attention to. I think it's everyone is here for their own run, and it's up to you. And if you want to succeed, you better be better than everyone else. And sometimes I have a story in here about one run where I think this time of ours now, the corona and the virus and the shots that we're going to receive, more than any other time, talk about or give the message of how much we have to rely on other people. And I think this is something that Americans tend to struggle with. If I want to succeed, I better do it better than you. So instead of, sometimes instead of building a mountain underneath oneself, we tend to dig a hole underneath someone else.
Oh,
And I think this is still something that exists in the American culture.
Boy, I think it's paramount in the American culture.
I know. I'm trying to be polite.
Yeah, you are.
I grew up.
That's what you do.
I
The other thing I think about is the little engine that could and the strive, no matter what, whether that's your gift or not. Practice is reinforced by Malcolm Gladwell's research about how many thousands of times you have to practice something to be proficient, which is it's paradox. And we don't like paradox either. We want a simple roadmap that's all one way or all the other. And I think it's got to be holding both rather than focusing on only overcoming your deficits. Go with your gifts. And as Bonnie said, give to others and be collaborative. And then we start having different measures of success instead of, you have so many issues later in the sermon. I don't want to give it away, but I like that, measuring yourself versus everyone else's measure. And now I'll shut up.
I like the two sides of the same coin. Like you said, we can work hard to accomplish the things that we love, but the other side of the same coin is this fear of imperfection, and that it's okay to be imperfect, and it's okay, that I'm not the best singer or the best cook or the best at sports or even marginally good at it. And I think that, we forget that it isn't all or nothing. We can try our best, but it's also okay that we're not okay sometimes. And I think that
I like.
Yes,
Can I just interject one more thing, Rabbi?
Of course.
You always told us it's the destination. It's not the destination, it's the journey. And so, thinking it's so goal oriented is opposite of what we're talking about, I think, right? We just keep going. We're not done. I'm not done being the person that I think I need to be. And most of the people that I really love and admire aren't done. So, yeah, there you go. Sorry.
Gail mentioned the word perfection. And years ago, I had a gift to my life when I heard that perfection was being wholly yourself, not comparing to anybody else. And that was just a real gift to my living.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I have my screen off because I'm making myself something to eat. Sorry.
You don't want to share with all of us?
I want to see, Sandy. I want to see.
Yeah.
I'm making this great muffin and having a little coffee, but I think the thing that that is also in this is that as humans we are incredibly resilient, and in resilience with the idea that we go forward and we try to do our best and everything, comes the idea that if something should happen, God forbid, and you can't achieve that particular goal, you have the skill set and the resilience and the courage and the endurance and the strength and the self-belief and the ability to ask for help to shift a goal and still be incredibly powerful internally and externally.
I grew up in a country really relied on everyone else. when you are born in Israel and you have a constant enemy outside of the borders, you tend to rely on everyone else that is in your unit or in your division, or just be connected to everyone. And it was a shock for me when the first few years in America, when I came in 1973, it was hard to adjust to a different kind of fabric that made the American psychic. It was very, very different. I have to tell you that Israel through the years has changed too. And sometimes when I went to visit again my parents and my friends, it was hard to adjust to an Israel that I did not recognize.
Wow.
So it's with the generations, some of this disappears. It's not the same place that I left, but no one goes to the same place they left.
Heraclides.
Yeah, you're right.
Rabbi, can you talk more about that experience when you first came to the United States? Can you say more about that?
I remember how people seem to be in a sense of there was no, I didn't feel unity. I didn't feel that there is some kind of a combined purpose and goal. People are very much
Individuals.
under the flag of go west, young men. And I didn't see the we. I saw a lot of eyes, but not we. And I left a place that was all about we.
Wow.
Which again is changing too. I'll bring other examples.
But there is, can I just share a story? Because I talked to some friends yesterday who are living in Ireland for the last 2 years, and they just can't get over the cultural difference between America, and they're in a village in Ireland where people take care of one another and really truly live, this is a retired minister, live in Christian community without talking about faith, but just simply
doing it.
Leslie said, gee, they knew I had a cold. Somebody knew I had a cold. So I had dinner on my doorstep, and I'll go get your groceries. Tell me what you need. You should stay in. And just the sense of unitive something. It's just it makes me sad. So, and I think that's what perhaps culturally, at least rural America was in my grandparents' generation, because, my grandma could whip out 40 pies in the morning because in thrashing season, she fed all the friends and neighbors who came to help, and then they all swarmed to the next farm and helped one another. And it was just, whether you were very successful or not, everybody helped everybody else. It was just part of the culture. Anyway.
Thank you.
I think it's still a little bit that way. I just moved from Valley, which is Western Douglas County, but it's just a little community, and people help each other, and almost everyone. So it's still there a little bit.
And hopefully this can happen as a result of the tri-faith. I mean,
Yes.
we are really dwelling next to each other when it comes to the faith communities, and now we need to move even deeper the relationship between the people and the ability to have similar kind of a kibbutz mentality, very much the kibbutz in Israel, the agricultural settlements in Israel that were small and intimate, and everyone knew everyone, and everyone did everyone else's job, and they all knew how to come and help. I think this will be a goal of the Tri-Faith, to be able not just to study together, but to act together in each other's life. I don't think it's a messianic. I don't think we need to wait for the Messiah to do it.
Well, I think there are people in our country who know how to do it. I was reading an article about Hispanics in this country, and they have a much lower suicide rate than Caucasians do in this country. They come together as a community and help each other. Their mental health is just better because family is so important to them and community is so important to them. And so I think we do have models in this country of how to do that. We need to elevate those models, and because it's killing us. You know, the suicide rate is going up in this country, and for the first time ever, our how do you say it? You know, the length of our lives is going the wrong way. It's killing us. This competition is killing us.
Yeah,
sorry.
Excuse me. I was just going to say, I think the happiness research that I'm familiar with backs up what Anne and others are saying here, that, gosh, one of the most satisfying things we can do is something nice for somebody else. It doesn't even have to be a big thing. And it aligns with achieving some success in some area. If we're going to work hard and achieve something, if we can use that knowledge to help others, it's the best thing we can do for ourselves and them.
I think one of the ways to do it is by keeping the immigrant culture of each one of us. I think sometimes we assimilate too fast into the American fabric, forgetting where we came from. And I think part of the success of the Hispanic community is that they all are struggling, and they are all still sitting in this immigrant picture. And there is something to be said about keeping that nature a little bit longer.
Now, I'm curious, the geographer in me would be curious about if there was a study related to the sense of community and how far removed from immigration to the United States. Because I think all people that are kind of a subgroup in society would tend to stick together and need each other just to survive and to support each other and to teach each other what they needed to know to fit into the culture. And so that is really interesting that you say that, as, you know, I'm picturing in my mind people that I know and love who are wonderful people, but very independent. And like they're elderly, and if I say, you know, well, why don't I order groceries online for you and you can drive and we'll just have it put in the trunk and we'll bring it to you. It's like, it's very hard for them to have someone else do something for them. And, you know, their ancestry goes back almost to the Pilgrims, you know, well before World War II. So I think that there's insight in that. I think there's something about Americans are just, in a sense, our culture is way too independent, in my opinion. And sometimes it feels like one doesn't fit in as well when they aren't that way. Like you have two heads if you try to connect with people. But anyway, I'm babbling on.
No. Thank you.
I'm from German background, and I remember at the time of World War II, my grandmother burned my grandfather's accordion because he was singing German songs, and she didn't want that to be happening in their community. And, you know, my grandparents used to speak German, but after World War II, they didn't speak German anymore. So we lost some of that due to the war and the history at that time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'm going back to the second paragraph now, on the second page. When the first real loss comes, we often do not know how to deal with it. Having been raised to believe that we must always win, we are not prepared to lose. Aside from warnings or be a good sport, most of us accept loss by planning to really beat them next time. Yet serious losses cannot always be mended by thoughts of next time. When one fails that first test in college, next time may not be comforting. Rather, we lose confidence in our skills and become frightened of trying, unsure of ourselves. When the love affair ends, other fears surface. Perhaps I am unlovable. Perhaps I am really a loser. On the ladder of business promotions, the results can be even more damaging. After being passed over by the second time and realizing that you will go no higher in the company, what can you do? If we only work to make it to the top, how do we accept finishing in the middle? So here I wrote this sermon when I lived in Baltimore. So of course I was fanatic about the Baltimore Orioles.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Before you go to that story, which I love, I just want to share a story about my mother. She's 91 and she was a school counselor when I was raising my kids. So my oldest child was the easy one. I don't know how that happened. It tricked me into two more. Just everything came easily to her. And my mom said, and she was only in about second grade, she said, you know, you better structure a loss or a failure for this kid, because there's nothing more important than a child experiencing that within the love of a supporting family who will hold them up and teach them how to, not in a competitive sense losing, but just not somehow achieving wonder and adulation and everybody else always telling you how smart you are and how cute you are. I just thought that was the most wonderful parenting advice. Amazing. So I think that's part of what you're talking about, is
yeah, absolutely.
Accept that as part of life and you learn it from your family.
Because we never actually learn how to lose. These losing situations can cause many to despair and even look for extreme solutions. And then I mentioned the Orioles that were never, what happens during the season of losing, fighting, arguing, and despair marked their encounter with defeat. Because they were a team gearing up only for success, they did not cope well with the challenging problems of loss. We have all heard of the drama major who did not get that lead in the college play and attempted suicide. Here I connect back to the suicide conversation we had before. We have read of the business executive who abandoned his family and home when he felt that he had disappointed them with his failure. If we do not know how to lose, we certainly cannot appreciate the real success that losing can give us. I underlined that sentence. I thought it was important. When we fail, we can experience more than shame or anger. We can realize that we are neither perfect nor all alone. As many have said, it is very lonely at the top. it is also very lonely on the way to the top. When we lose, instead of looking for satisfaction over our fellows, we can look for satisfaction with them.
I think it's really important during this period of time too, as we're reading this, to remember that there are many, many success stories of people who faced incredible adversity and managed to succeed in spite of, or like Deb was saying, maybe a loving family, but maybe they didn't have a loving family. Maybe what they had is this ability to believe that they may have seen other people do it. Maybe they saw other people do it. So it is equally as important, I think, to expose ourselves to those success stories through adversity. Through adversity comes the seeds of equal or greater benefit. And while we are still looking at those who, the challenges of not winning, and the ability, the fact that you have been taught how to lose is also balanced by the fact that you have lost and you have been taught then how to get back up and win, no matter what it is. And I think that's important.
I agree.
Rabbi,
Yes.
Rabbi, I went to an amazing basketball game this past week. It was Millard North, who has the #1 basketball game, or the basketball team in the city. And they were playing Benson, and they beat them by 50 points. And Millard North had their C team in. And then I noticed that Benson had their C team in. And I was like, because I've always been on the end of the thrashing because I played basketball. And then I looked over, and the Benson team was celebrating every basket their C team made. Like it wasn't like they were being thrashed. They were celebrating every basket their bench made. So it was great watching them play, even though they were losing.
Wow.
Beautiful story.
Can I share just a little story about my son when he was, if it's really quick, playing baseball, also just like your son, very young, playing baseball. They were in the 9th inning. They were down 11-0. And I don't know how it was that my son found something. He found a golf ball, and he called it the magic golf ball. And he had everybody on the team touch the magic golf ball. And somehow or other, that enthusiasm without the team, they scored 12 points in the bottom of the 9th inning.
Wow.
And I think that, again, balancing all this stuff out with the fact that there is hope. Adversity is everywhere. We live in a world where it's nothing but adversity, but there's a certain amount of belief. Maybe it's faith. Maybe that's what the tri-faith piece is about too, that we have the faith that we can connect, that we can grow together, that we can differ, that we can argue, we can figure it out. But there's something about an internal belief that failure is not failure unless you don't get back up again.
Maybe it was during Hanukkah, that miracle.
It was
the baseball game.
It was sort of late, it was kind of into the fall. It was fun. We still have the golf ball somewhere. And he's like 30, 35 is going to be a father of a son. So
beautiful.
That's a great story. And again, I think, sometimes when we think about the journey and not being either or, winning and losing, that, to me, it's like, it's okay to rejoice with other people that win or that got the job that I didn't have. And it's okay when I don't get the job or I don't, experience what I had hoped for, to tell friends and be disappointed with them and then just go on, because there's other things maybe that will work well and I will achieve. And so I think we're so, like you said, American culture is so driven to doing and achieving. Your story made me think, does anyone remember a book in the 70s called Hope for the Flowers? It was a little book. This caterpillar was climbing this giant pillar of caterpillars to make it to the top. And he's pushing all the other caterpillars down to get to the top, and he gets to the top and there's nothing there. And it's kind of a kid's illustrated book, but it made me think of that. It's like, what if we could rejoice with the team that won.
Oh,
And
can I?
one could just be okay saying, well, I didn't do so well. I'll just try. I mean, I'll still get up and try, but maybe that's okay.
Can I just share another quick one to that? Because my grandson last summer, was playing soccer for the first time. And somehow or other, he's out on the floor. And every time somebody made a goal, he would cheer. It didn't matter whose team it was. He just cheered because he just was so excited that somebody made a goal. And I think maybe that goes along with what you're saying, Gail. It's not only we rejoice with our guys who win, but in some ways, we look for a way to rejoice with the other team a little bit, that we can, because we're empathetic people.
Well,
Empathy.
I would like to know, I don't have an answer to the question of what do we think we get out of getting to the top? Do we get immortality? Do we get happiness? Because usually it's like you said, Gail, there's nothing there. You know, whatever we think, what I'm trying to ask is what is underneath this? And I think it's some kind of, I hate to be highfalutin, but some kind of existential dilemma that we're trying to solve, that if I just have enough money, I won't die, or I'll never be sick, or I'll be okay. Or if I just get to the top of the corporate ladder, what do we think is there?
I think people are looking for meaning. And because we can't just be content with mindfulness and being where we are and loving the people around us and having gratitude and joy where we are. If I only had this one thing, then I would be happy. And it's like we keep looking for something outside of ourselves. You know, if only I was married, or if only I wasn't married anymore, or if only I had children, or if only my children were grown, or if only. And the same thing, it's almost like rather than just being quiet and finding that peace inside of us, we just keep looking for something somewhere that will, you know, I don't know, fill a hole, I guess. And it isn't there. It's already there. It's already inside of us, but we think it will be something outside of ourselves that will make us happy.
I think there are people that see the world half full and some who see it half empty. And I'm just so thankful that my makeup is to see it half full, and I can see the blue sky even when it's cold, or I can see the beauty of the snow even when it's icy. You know, I think it depends on what we choose to focus on. We can, you know, look for the positive, or we can look for the negative and dig a hole that you can't get out of if you stay in the negative hole.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good comments. When we fail, I'm now one paragraph before the end of page 2. When we fail, we can experience more than shame or anger. We can realize that we are neither perfect nor all alone. As many have said, it is very lonely at the top. It is also very lonely on the way to the top. When we lose, instead of looking for satisfaction over our fellows, we can look for satisfaction with them. A story from the air base. All summer long, a group prepared for a 3-mile timed running distance. People work hard and each trained to reach physical limits. They would be graded based on the time that they took to complete a 3-mile course. A fast time could result in a better, page 3, recommendation or even a personal honor. One of the men in the base had not been running for at least 20 years, and he feared that the final test. Another man about the same age, had stayed in excellent shape. He could certainly keep pace with the fastest, youngest runners. Yet, that second man worked with the slower man, coaching him, coming in last with him every time. On the day of the test, each encouraged the other, but they all worked by themselves for their own time, except that one fellow. He ignored the fact that he was expected to score his own best time and continued to run alongside with slower friend. The slower man told him that they both might fail if they stay together. That did not convince his friend. They finished together with the worst time in the group, but with the most applause. While neither of them was the winner, certainly neither was the loser. The pair showed the unit that they are all connected and even stronger when united. Being second or fifth or even last can teach us that we can indeed live in cooperation, not only in competition. A chain of life includes support from one human to another. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch wrote that one glorious chain of love, or giving and receiving, unites all creatures. None is by or for itself, but all things succeed in continual reciprocal activity, the one for all and all for one. We can learn even from failure. Losing reminds us that the values and standards that count for success in society are merely human guides. When we remember that something human made is also therefore fallible and temporal, we can judge those standards more closely. Being number one only means that we have met standards set by someone else. Finding genuine success means accomplishing goals set by our own inner standards, by values which transcend human criteria. I'm stopping. I want to hear you, some of your feelings here.
I think that's the biggest nugget from this whole sermon, is that setting standards that come from within, for me, based on spiritual values and a higher power. But I think the American definition, and I say this because I've been so susceptible to it always. I mean, I went to college going, ooh, I am going to walk out of here with those honors. Absolutely. And that's based on somebody else's standards and how you're going to be judged by others. It's all external. It's not internal. So it's never enough. So I think that is what you said is just so powerful.
I just forgot to underline it. Any other comments?
Rabbi, you didn't forget to underline it. When you were standing at the bima, you boomed at us.
Yeah, I'm trying sometimes to find that voice again.
You know, that was beautiful, because we're all in this together, and we forget that. And that it isn't about like I'm number one. It's about how do you bring people along with you to, you know, to improve themselves. And maybe it's because in my younger years I struggled a lot. You know, I didn't do well in school. I'm a little dyslexic, and so, but I always got back up. In fifth grade, I was the smallest kid in the school, counting kindergarten. I'm a little short, 4'11", a tiny little thing. I have to run around in the shower to get wet. And so I didn't get picked for sports. And to me, it was kind of a life lesson of, well, that didn't work so well. So what's something that will work? And I'm grateful for the people that cheered me on. And all my struggles in school, I didn't finish high school. I got my GED. I went on to college and graduated from UNO summa cum laude. But I went into it knowing I would fail every test and I couldn't do this, but I took it one paper and one test at a time, and Kyle cheered me on. And the fact that every time I'd say I can't do this, someone cheered me on made a difference to me. And since graduating, all of the people I trained my 31 years supervising in the department, I'd bring in interns, and many of them got promotions and some became my bosses later on, which was fine with me. I take joy in that because it does matter as we help one another. And I wish there was a way to get American culture to see that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
I think the only way we can get American culture to see it is for when we have these discussions and meetings, and then to go out and practice. And, you know, if each of us go and practice and show other people how to do it, then it can snowball, and maybe there can be some change in the American scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think from time to time, things like this virus makes us all humble. There is something about those terrible things that we go through that makes us really realize what is important in life. And the stories about this is one of the strengths that is happening now, that gives us amazing strength, are the stories about the people who are Americans, who are on the front line, and what they're doing to save other people. Those are heroic stories, and they infuse us with strength to realize that there must be something else to life than the constant running, constant desire to achieve everything.
Our caretakers
yeah.
are definitely our real heroes right now. They're the top of the pack as far as I'm concerned, for heroes or winners or the elite. I really see them as the elite, and they're caretakers.
And hopefully their investment in the health of all of us will bring them the right compensation. Yes. After years of being completely neglected. I still have difficulty understanding how a person that is running on the ball field, trying to catch baseballs, can make those astronomical salaries, while some of the people who are saving lives barely can finish the month.
Or our teachers.
Or teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as you talk about the virus and our coming together, Rabbi, it dawns on me that we Americans are really good at coming together. In 9/11, World War II, there's any number of examples. We just have trouble staying together after that ends.
Yeah.
We need to do something like that.
And I think this is definitely as a result of building a society differently than the one that I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's easy to stay together when you're surrounded by 400 million enemies. then maybe from time to time, it's terrible to say, maybe from time to time we need a good war to help us realize what is important.
Maybe not a war, Rabbi. Just maybe the enemy is the virus, or the enemy is poverty, or the enemy is ignorance. Maybe not a war.
I know. I prefer that. I totally agree with your attitude. I'm just sometimes to accentuate some of the things that are happening to us. That's what makes us realize what's important in our life.
Yeah, like tree shift.
The
And maybe,
pain, yeah.
Maybe it does help if we take a look at what it is that causes the division after the coming together. And it's hard, but maybe it is the separation around identity, what our identity is, what my identity is, what my group is, and being able to really say, we have a lot of things in place to look at what our differences are. Let's look at what our similarities are. Look at all the intertwining of each other in this society already. Everything from intermarriages to interfaith to, that we are already holding up in so many ways the people who do need it. So maybe that's part of what gets lost at the end of something that holds us together. We go back into our own camps, and we have to be careful of that. We need to build the bridges and acknowledge what has been built and build on that, as opposed to continuing to go back and fight about, but you're not giving me what I need, and I'm not being heard, or how do we listen? And there's a wonderful thing I'm trying to understand about nonviolent conversation. There is a psychologist, Marshall Rosenberg, I think that's his name. Les is shaking his head with me, who actually has a program here in town. He died in 2015, who talks about nonviolent communication and how we gather together. And maybe we can do a little shift into that.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be there for that conversation. I mean, in the sense of having patience to talk when things are done and figuring out what are we learning. I don't think we have a lot of patience to meet at the end of something that happens to us to discover how to avoid this of happening again.
Maybe that's why we need to be doing it now.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe the Tri-Faith is a great forum to be able to do it.
Yes.
Okay, I'm continuing. The painfulness of, that's last paragraph, one paragraph before the end. The painfulness of losing cannot be erased by this realization. When we have failed in an endeavor which was personally important, it is not ready to focus on the gains from losing. But even that pain can elicit a new understanding. I know an older woman, she would be characterized as a loser in life. She is alone, without family, without money or prestige. She is ill and frightened and suffers from chronic depression. She has threatened suicide and has been hospitalized. She understands her illness and is quite intelligent. The therapist asked her in sympathy, I know how much you hurt and how badly you feel about life. Tell me, why haven't you killed yourself? Les, that's a good question that the therapist hopefully never asks. This sad old woman answered with a small grin and with great subtlety, I would not know how. Through her constant struggle for survival, to grow healthy, she demonstrated that she would not know how to stop trying to live. Last page. She realizes that the pain of losing is as much a part of life as are the joys of success. For this woman, living is itself an achievement. Though she hopes for her pain to abate, she would not know how to drop out this challenge. She also told her therapist, "Suicide is against my religion." She adhered to standards higher than those by which we commonly judge ourselves. A story is told of a traveler walking from one village to the next. He asked a young boy on the street, "How long will it take me to reach the next village?" The boy answered that he did not know. After the man had walked a few steps, the boy ran to him and called, "Now I know, sir. It will take you an hour and a half." "So why didn't you tell me so immediately?" the man demanded. The boy replied, "I couldn't tell you how long a walk you would have until I saw how fast you walk." So it might be with each of us. We should judge our progress in life based on our individual walk or ability. We can reach our goals only if they complement our own personalities and standards. Such an approach would also permit us to help the others along our ways realize that we all travel together as human beings. Amen.
Amen. And therein maybe lies two things that we may need to try to work really hard on, and that is not labeling and not generalizing others or ourselves.
And walking with others, holding their hand.
How about stopping to judge others? We have such a level of judgment. Oh my God, we spend so many hours judging everyone else, and sometimes we forget to judge ourselves.
And it's language. It's about labeling, and it's really about the language we use when we judge. You are something. I don't know. How do you know what I am? Unless you talk.
You're not holding hands with them when you're judging.
And this is one of the difficulty of this period. We can't hug anyone.
Mm-hmm.
We can shake hands. We can do those things that can convey love and affection. Except the smile we have, but we need to remove the mask.
Mm-hmm.
Those masks are very symbolizing the great difficulty that we have.
Yes.
It's interesting, the mask we have to put because of the virus, but it's even more interesting all the masks we wear when we don't have a virus.
Mm-hmm.
How come?
Good question.
I think giving each other our eyes, because, when somebody really looks at you and you're talking and they're really looking at you and looking at you with the wanting to know you, I think is a big piece of what could improve things.
I agree. Any comments at the end of the presentation? So now you know what rabbis do on Friday night. We write sermons and we preach them.
And very good ones at that. I can probably still be nice to people for 5 more days now, Ari. I'm working on 7 though.
You are not. Stop judging yourself so severely.
And thank you for sharing them outside your circle.
Well, I don't have circles anymore.
Good.
I don't have circles. I have the world around me.
Yes.
And I need to relate to the world.
Yes.
There was definitely a time when I was in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Countryside needs you right now, Rabbi.
Yes, they do. Yes, they
I
do.
hope you know that.
I need Countryside too. This invitation to be able to speak with you every week, it's a glorious gift. Glorious gift.
It's
To us too.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So grateful.
No, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Have a good week. Stay
Rabbi,
healthy. Don't
Rabbi,
do it crazy. Yeah. Yes.
are you busy this afternoon? I want to talk to you about Taylor Keene.
Okay. Just give me a call. You have my phone number?
I do. Yes.
You guys
Aryeh,
are
if I don't,
always
Aryeh, if I
invite.
don't see you, go ahead.
If you don't see me, what?
Happy birthday on Friday.
Yes.
Oh, happy birthday.
Oh,
Yeah, I wish we didn't have COVID so we could all lavish you.
Let's sing. Happy
I'm gonna
birthday to you.
do it.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Well, there's a lag.
happy birthday.
And if you rub your hands really, really, really hard, you'll feel them warm and put them on your cheek. And that's all of us hugging you.